Imagine you sent a text message to someone you care about. A simple message, nothing complicated. And now you're waiting for a reply, but they haven't responded yet. And suddenly, without any warning, your mind starts moving. Did I say something wrong? Did I come across as too eager? Maybe they're upset with me. Maybe I misread the whole relationship. Maybe I should send a follow-up message. No, wait, that'll look desperate. Maybe I should just... And before you know it, 30 minutes have passed. You're sitting in the same spot. You haven't moved. Your body is physically present. But your mind? Your mind has already lived through 17 different versions of a conversation that hasn't even happened yet. If that sounds familiar, this video is for you, because here's what most people don't understand about overthinkers. It's not that they think too much, it's that they feel too much. And today, we're going to talk about what's really happening inside.
Society has a very specific image of an overthinker, someone indecisive, someone anxious, someone who can't just let things go or relax and stop worrying. People say things like, "You're overthinking it," as if that's helpful, as if the overthinker doesn't already know, as if they chose to replay that conversation from 3 years ago at 2 in the morning. But psychology tells a completely different story. Overthinking is not a character flaw. It's not laziness dressed up as thinking. And it's definitely not something that only affects people who are weak or too sensitive. Psychologists call this pattern rumination, and it's one of the most deeply studied phenomena in modern psychology. It is the mind's response to unresolved emotional tension. It is what happens when a person feels something so intensely that their brain refuses to move forward until it finds certainty, until it finds safety, until it knows, truly knows, that everything is going to be okay. The problem is, certainty rarely comes, and so the mind keeps searching.
Here's what's happening inside the brain of an overthinker. Every human brain has what you might call a threat detection system. Its job is to scan the environment, identify anything that could go wrong, and protect you from it. This system is ancient. It kept our ancestors alive. It helped them survive predators, harsh winters, and dangerous strangers. But here's the thing. For some people, this system is running on a much higher sensitivity setting than for others. When an overthinker encounters an uncertain situation, a delayed text, a difficult decision, a conversation that ended strangely, their brain doesn't register it as a minor inconvenience. It registers it as a potential threat, and it sends the mind into problem-solving mode. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for reasoning and analysis, goes into overdrive. It starts generating possibilities, running through scenarios, preparing for outcomes. This would be incredibly useful if you were planning a military operation or solving a complex equation, but when you're just trying to figure out why your friend seemed quiet at dinner, it becomes exhausting. And underneath all of that mental activity, there's an emotion, a quiet, persistent, often unnamed emotion that most overthinkers carry with them everywhere they go. It's the feeling of not being safe. Not physically unsafe, but emotionally unsafe. The quiet, internal sense that things could fall apart, that people could leave, that you could say the wrong thing and lose something important, that if you stop paying attention even for a moment, something will slip through the cracks. This is the feeling that drives the thinking. Not logic, not curiosity, fear dressed up as analysis.
Studies show that chronic overthinkers tend to have heightened activity in the default mode network, the part of the brain that becomes active when we're not focused on the outside world. It's the network responsible for self-reflection, imagining the future, and replaying the past. In people who struggle with rumination, this network doesn't quiet down the way it does for others. It stays active. It keeps generating content, scenarios, memories, possibilities, fears. Research suggests that this isn't random. It's often connected to early experiences where unpredictability felt threatening, environments where things changed without warning, where love sometimes felt conditional, where staying alert, staying one step ahead, was actually necessary for emotional survival. The brain learned a lesson early on. Thinking harder keeps you safe. And even when life becomes safer, even when things are objectively okay, that lesson doesn't just disappear. The brain keeps running the same program because it worked once, and survival strategies don't erase easily.
Now, think about two different people facing the same situation. They both get a piece of critical feedback from someone they respect, maybe a boss, a close friend, a partner. The words are almost identical. The tone is similar. The setting is the same. The first person hears the feedback, sits with it briefly, decides whether it's valid or not, and moves on. They might feel a small sting, but within hours, they've largely let it go. They don't question their entire identity. They don't replay the conversation before bed. They just continue living. The second person, the overthinker, has a completely different experience. They hear the feedback and it lands somewhere deep. Their mind immediately starts running. Was there a hidden meaning? Have they always been this way? Did other people notice? Have they been making this mistake for years without realizing? Should they apologize? Should they change something? Are they the problem? By nighttime, they're not just thinking about the feedback anymore. They're questioning their relationships, their competence, their worth. Same situation, two completely different internal experiences. The difference isn't intelligence. It isn't maturity. It isn't strength. The difference is sensitivity. And sensitivity is not a weakness. It is an orientation. It is the way certain nervous systems are wired to experience the world more deeply, more completely, with more layers.
Here's something worth sitting with. Overthinkers are often the most perceptive people in the room. They notice details others miss. They pick up on subtle shifts in someone's tone. They sense when something is off before anyone else even realizes it. They have an extraordinary capacity for empathy because they are constantly imagining how situations feel for the people around them. These are not small things. These are remarkable human qualities, but they come with a cost, and that cost is this. When you feel everything so deeply, your mind tries to protect you by thinking everything through. It becomes hypervigilant. It starts treating uncertainty like a problem to be solved rather than a natural part of life. Psychologists call this the thinking-feeling loop. You feel something uncomfortable, so you think to try to resolve the feeling. But the thinking generates more scenarios, which creates more feelings, which demands more thinking, and the loop continues. The overthinker isn't confused. They aren't irrational. They are trying to do something deeply human. Manage a feeling that feels unmanageable by using the only tool that has ever felt reliable, their mind. The tragedy is that the mind alone cannot resolve what the heart is carrying. Certainty is not something you can think your way into. Safety is not something analysis can fully provide. Some things, the fear of being abandoned, the fear of not being enough, the quiet worry that you are somehow too much, these things don't dissolve through logic. They dissolve through experience, through connection, through moments of being truly seen and not judged for it.
So if you're someone who lies awake replaying conversations, if you're someone who reads between every line, if you're someone who prepares for every possible scenario and still finds yourself unprepared for how things feel, I want you to hear this. You are not broken. You are not weak. You are not defective. You are not too much. You are someone whose nervous system learned to stay alert because alertness once meant safety. You are someone who feels things at a depth that most people never experience, and that depth, as painful as it sometimes is also where your empathy lives, where your creativity lives, where your extraordinary ability to connect with other human beings comes from. You are wired differently, and different is not the same as wrong. The goal is not to stop feeling. The goal is not to somehow become the kind of person who doesn't care. The goal is to slowly, gently learn that you are allowed to put the thinking down sometimes, that the world will not collapse when you do, that you can exist in uncertainty without it meaning something terrible is about to happen, that you are safe even when your mind insists otherwise. That takes time, it takes practice, it takes often the support of someone you trust, but it is possible. And the fact that you are here trying to understand yourself better, that is already the first step.
If this video resonated with you, if something in these words made you feel a little less alone in the way your mind works, I want you to take a moment before you scroll away. Not to subscribe, not right now, just to breathe, to acknowledge that you've been carrying something heavy and that understanding it even a little more clearly, matters. But when you're ready, if you want to keep going, subscribe to this channel, because every week we explore the quieter, deeper parts of human psychology. The parts nobody talks about at dinner. The parts that explain why you are the way you are, and why that might be more beautiful than you've been told.